Keep your senses. Be watchful. Your adversary, the devil, walks about like a roaring lion, seeking to devour someone. Keep your senses. Be watchful. Your adversary, the devil, walks about like a roaring lion, seeking to devour someone.
Like, this should be the answer he should be giving me when I say, is it required? He should say yes, and he should give me that publication to say, before you can be baptized, you have to be doing this. You know? But
Well, I
he
mean,
will be held.
I apologize.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just saying. There's so many videos where you can see Jehovah's Witnesses using this as a linchpin to determine whether or not you are a true Christian or not. It's almost like the litmus test that's given. And
Yep.
you know, are you, you know, so you're a Christian, oh, you're born again, you know, so you're knocking on doors, you're doing field service. It's the linchpin, it's the litmus test. So it's
That's a red herring argument, Jay. That's not what we're discussing if Jehovah Witnesses pride themselves in preaching by going door to door. The argument is if it's required, but you don't even know what the discussion is because you assume I'm saying preaching isn't required at all. So your comment is moot.
I mean, I shouldn't say that it baffles me that he doesn't want to acknowledge what's being said. And I think the question should be, well, you know, does it have to say door to door for uh, as it relates to this what you presented to him?
Yes, it does have to say door to door because Jehovah's Witnesses preach in various ways, not just door to door, and not to mention the most important reason that was Ryan's argument. If you can't back up his argument, then I suggest not to make a thesis as such and learn how to use words properly.
Does it encompass the the actions of going door to door as it relates to making disciples? But yeah, I can't wait to get to the. So you wind up giving him a copy of the article itself, or no, that you're quoting from?
No, I didn't. I didn't have
Okay,
it at that time. That's
gotcha.
after I talked to them. I talked to the elder. So then,
Okay.
so that's, yeah, because that's what Austin was trying to say to me. You're not preaching.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus said go door to door, but you're
Mm-hmm.
not doing that. So
There it is.
that's what they say. To kind
Mm-hmm.
of show that they are the truth. That's what they say you should be doing,
Mm-hmm.
to kind of prove, to say, that's it. That's the truth
Yeah.
right there. They're doing
Yeah.
it,
Mm-hmm.
and then but it's not biblical.
Mm-hmm.
So he says, quote it for me, what you posted, where you see the phrase door to door. And he says, I asked you for a specific phrase
Because that was
that
his
you claim.
argument.
Now show me.
That was his argument.
So I think I said, hold on. I think I was trying to find another one. That one's clear. It's clear. But I'm like, okay, hold on. And he said, you see
Ah,
how,
the patience of Job. The patience
yeah.
of Job.
The guy's delusional.
He said, you see how much of a liar you are, Ryan? And he said, Austin, read this and tell me, do you see the phrase door to door is a requirement? And he said, sir, uh, just answer the question honestly. Is door to door in this article you cited, yes or no?
He did. You already said yes.
So he's going, he said, I'm done speaking to you. You're a liar. And I said, yes, it's included in the preaching and disciple making work, but it's sad that you won't omit it. So I'll find another article that kind of breaks it out.
Didn't he say earlier he didn't want to take us out of context and add words? When did I ever say going to door isn't part of preaching? You can't take this guy serious. You can't take him seriously. He is delusional at this point.
And he
Okay.
said the article is referring to preaching just in general. So I said, there's only a few ways you preach. And he says, hold on, I had the publication. I stick to jw.org. Take their word for it, not mine.
No go.
Yes, and clearly you interpolate the Watchtower material, inserting things the Watchtower is not saying. And we just saw that when I asked you a specific question, and you just proved it. You do interpolate what the Watchtower says, and you add words. So I gave him another try. Let's see how he does.
Going ahead.
And then he said, Austin, I'm done talking to Ryan. I'm not throwing pearls before swine. He can't even answer honestly. I said, don't. I told him, don't run. Don't run now. Just wait a second. Yeah. And he said, still searching. Have not seen door to door, Austin said. And he said, exactly. He's just a liar and really trying to find something that isn't there. I can't believe they're really going through all this and they know that they're lying.
Listen, I ain't done.
Clearly, you forgot your own argument, Ryan. Let's run that beautiful footage.
Nothing past.
You said door to door isn't required, but what does the Watchtower say? You said door to door isn't required, but what does the Watchtower say? You said door to door isn't required, but what does the Watchtower say? You said door to door isn't required, but what does the Watchtower say?
Both those two guys.
Clearly, he couldn't present his argument using the Watchtower material. That's the reality. But in his mind, he sees door to door. What's wrong with this guy?
Nothing. I'm not.
So he says, Ryan, I'll give you one more chance. The first article doesn't have it. Heard the phrase door to door is required. Yes or no? So I think I sent them another article. I said, it says their conviction moved them rigorously to rigorously preaching activity. The inspired Bible record says every day in the temple from house to house they continued without let up teaching and declaring the good news about Christ Jesus. And he says, do you too profess to be a Christian? If so, do you exhibit the same zeal and enthusiasm for sharing in the preaching work? Is kingdom preaching really a required activity for true Christians? So I said, so the one article says they must be involved in the preaching work, and this article explains what the preaching work is, and that's going door to door, supposedly like Jesus did.
Is it true what Ryan says? In the March 15, 1970 Watchtower, page 173, he says, I quote, the one article states they must be involved in the preaching work, and this article explains the preaching work is, and that is going door to door. End quote. No, the article doesn't state that's what it is. It states that's one of the methods on how preaching is done. Let's bring up the article. This is the one he's referring to. Keep the right view in kingdom preaching. So in this article, it has 27 paragraphs, and it references preaching at houses only 4 times. Paragraph 1 shows the method how early Christians just didn't go house to house, but also went to temples. Paragraph 4 shows how Jesus, well, it shows biblical evidence how he instructed his disciples to go from homes. Matthew chapter 10, verse 11 to 14, and Luke chapter 10, 1 through 11. But these are scriptures you don't believe in. And paragraph 11 only mentions how few are discouraged when the householders are being unresponsive to the kingdom message. But do you know what it doesn't say? The article explains what the preaching work is, and that is going door to door. No. It shows that is a method how preaching was done, and the article says nothing that door to door is required. The article uses preaching in a general sense, and it doesn't limit it to door as you suggested. Another failed attempt. But not even that. You did what you said you didn't want, that you were trying not to do, and that's adding to the Watchtower, misrepresenting the Watchtower, which you clearly just did. You've been doing this throughout your whole video, and shame on Jay for not even calling you out on it.
Mm-hmm.
So then he says, does this article say door to door is required? Yes or no?
Okay, so now the house to house doesn't. So that means now because it says house to house, it doesn't say door to door. So now it's this what the publication that you gave him doesn't apply.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, because houses don't have doors. Okay, gotcha.
No, Jay, apparently you forgot the argument again.
We got you.
Yep. You said door to door isn't required, but what does the Watchtower say? You said door to door isn't required, but what does the Watchtower say? Yep. Thank you, sister. Yep. Sister just posted in the chat. She posted a reference. It says, do you know of anyone else who preaches about God's kingdom from house to house throughout the world? Does God care? Exactly.
Let's bring up that brochure. Does God care about us? So this is supposed to be another claim that door to door is required. Is that true though? Here it is. On page 30, and let's see if it helps his argument. And I'm going to read it. We have seen the prophecy. Hold on. We have seen the prophecy being fulfilled. Have we seen the prophecy being fulfilled? Yes. Since the last days began in 1914, Jehovah's Witnesses have preached the good news of God's kingdom throughout the world in the manner ordered by Jesus, namely at homes of the people. Millions of witnesses call on people in every nation to talk to them about the new world. This has led to your receiving this brochure, as the work of Jehovah's Witnesses includes printing and distributing billions of pieces of literature about God's kingdom. Do you know of anyone else who preaches about God's kingdom from house to house throughout the world? And Mark 13:10 shows that the preaching and teaching work must be done first before the end comes. This paragraph shows the primary method, mainly going house to house to reach people and preach, but it doesn't help the argument, Ryan, that the Watchtower requires us to go door to door. You need to learn how to use words because words have meaning, and nothing you displayed has proven your point. In contrast, it proved my point. The paragraph stressed preaching. Going door to door shows it's a method. Clearly you're in the wrong. This article just proved my point. But thank you. Who was it? Henrietta M. Riley? Thank you. That proved my point, not Ryan's.
He'll probably use the same response. Does it say door to door is required?
Mm-hmm. Yes, because that's been your thesis and argument. You made a specific method of preaching. You're so blind you can't even you can't see that.
So then George goes, preaching various ways as what we are doing now, calling people's phones and writing letters to them. Like I said, any way possible to communicate with people. Do you understand now?
It's funny how Austin actually answered. I mean, it's funny how George answered Austin for you with his statement alone.
Yeah.
But anyway.
So now they're trying to explain what are the various ways that in every way possible to communicate, but they leave door to door out. He only says what they're doing.
Oh, this guy does not know. Wow.
Now, which is phone calls and writing letters.
Yeah. They say I'd have been like, well, why are you doing that now? Is that because of because of the Rona? Is that why you're doing that now? What was the means of possibly communicating with people prior to the Rona? I'm curious. What did that look like? Exactly. It looked like snail pace walking.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it looked like. Snail pace walking outside,
and a fake knock,
and a light little knock hoping that nobody comes to the door,
Mm-hmm.
and basically dropping off a flyer or a brochure that could be counted as a visit, potential visit. I don't know.
Exactly. That's what I told him. I said, so you are calling phones and writing letters because you can't go door to door,
Mm,
or because you still have to meet the hour requirement, which is unbiblical, like
mm,
Ralph brought to light. I said the letters are the same, are all the
Rolf did not bring to light.
same, and
mm.
just sent out in mass.
He sides with me on this point of this discussion that we're having, as we clearly read in his book.
In mass boat. So I said, all you do is Zoom meetings. And he
Mm.
said, I just answered your question, and we are doing the same method. We were doing the same method years before the COVID pandemic.
Yeah, you were also doing knocking on doors too, homie.
Exactly. He said, I'm done speaking to you. You have nothing to offer me but your false gospel and your misinterpretation.
So we were doing it before. We were also doing door to door before the COVID. Yes, but what's your point? I got confused on that.
Of my religion. I said, yeah, I know you would. I know you were. That's true, but that doesn't change the fact it's all done to meet an unbiblical hour requirement. Those options are just used now because you aren't allowed to go door to door. So if you can go door to door, you wouldn't be calling people and you wouldn't be writing letters. Let's you know what I mean. Let's be honest.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I ended the day because
Yes, he ended it there. So I want to pick up where he left off. Now he made a point assuming we didn't, Jehovah's Witnesses didn't go out. Um, well, assuming Jehovah's Witnesses didn't do letter writing and telephone witnessing. He assumed that, which is a total lie, which I'm gonna prove. But I want to pick up where he left off. Okay, so here we are. Okay, I just answered your question. We were doing this same method years before the COVID pandemic. Yes, we were, and we were we're doing it before. We're doing it presently, and we'll do it after. We never stopped. Sir, I'm done speaking to you. You have nothing to offer me but your false gospel and misrepresentation of my religion, which he did throughout his whole video. Now, this is where he contradicts himself within the same paragraph. I know you were referring to writing letters and phone witnessing. I know you were. That's true, but doesn't change the fact it's all done to meet unbiblical hour requirement. Those options are those options are just used now because you are allowed to go door to door. Let's go back to that paragraph. He contradicted himself in that. Okay, I know you were referring to letter witnessing and telephone witnessing. I know you were true, but doesn't change the fact it's all done to meet unbiblical hour requirement. Okay, for one thing, we never claimed that this is a biblical requirement. We never claimed that. So why is he even bringing that up? It's a moot point he's making here. Okay, so we could dismiss that false accusation there. Those options are just used now. But wait a minute. I thought you just said it's true we were using it. We did it that back before the pre-COVID. But then he says the options are just used now because you aren't allowed to go door to door. So which is it? I don't understand your argument. You can't make this up at any rate. We wrote and called people years before the COVID. Austin, read what Ryan wrote. We didn't write letters or call people until COVID. We did this years before the pandemic. I didn't say that. I said you used to do it, but now that's the main option because you can't go door to door. Yes, but what is your point now? I don't understand that argument. You implied it. Otherwise, what was your point bringing it up? I have nothing else to say to Ryan. Sorry, I just think this is fruitless and you're focused on the wrong things. And this is very much a turnoff. Yes, because his contradictions. And then he goes on talking foolishness and okay. But here's where it it gets worse. On his uh, YouTube channel, his go along, get along gang makes the silliest comments. And I'm going to show you. No matter how wrong a person is and they oppose Jehovah Witnesses, Ryan just agrees with it, he even hearts it. And I'm going to prove it. Annie saved by grace. Look what she wrote. If a Jehovah Witness is not an unbaptized publisher, they're not eligible for baptism. There was no phone witnessing, no cart witnessing, no letters writing back in the 1980s and 90s. It was all door-to-door preaching work. Even street witnessing and evening witnessing was new back then. Now here, I'm not understanding. I'm not. What are they saying? The last sentence. Even street witnessing and evening witnessing was new back then. So are you saying that we been doing it previously to COVID-19, or is it a mistake with your last with those last words? Even street witnessing and evening witnessing. You probably should have ended there to make your sentence or your paragraph follow, because when you say was new back then, you're implying that we did it back then. Street witnessing and evening witnessing, we did it back then previously to the COVID-19. The whole paragraph is a contradiction. But not only is it a contradiction, it's wrong. If you go to the Jehovah Witness website, phone witnessing, 1968, it goes back. Made powerful spiritually, though physically weak. But they did not keep her from witnessing to her neighbor by phone and having their neighbors come over to have a Bible study at her bedside. What year is this? 1968. But what was the accusation? There was no phone witnessing back in the 80s and 90s. 1968 though. Let's see. Perhaps they are able to call on just one or two homes at a time in the field ministry, or must confine their activity to informal witnessing, speaking to visitors, writing letters, make phone calls, and the like. 1972 in our kingdom ministry. I thought we didn't do any of phone witnessing. Let's see. 1987. Wait a minute. Didn't they say there was no phone witnessing in the 80s? Yeah, and Ryan Hardit. Yeah. But what does this say? When phone witnessing is done discreetly with kindness, tact, and skill, some have found even better response than from calling on such persons at their homes. 1987. Successful telephone witnessing. This is pre-COVID, right? 2001, right? 2001. I have 37 return visits from phone witnessing and more studies that I can care for. Preach to make disciples. Our Christian sisters conclude, for many years I had prayed for a Bible study, but I did not expect to get one by witnessing on the phone. 2003. Pre-COVID, right? I could go on and on. I could go on and on regarding this. But there was another point about street witnessing. Well, they did say cart witnessing, but that's the same thing as the streets. The only difference is we didn't have the carts, but we were still out there. And how far does this go? 1950. The New World The New World workers are organized in companies to distribute the message of life by making door-to-door visits and doing street witnessing. They talk about street witnessing back in the 50s. I could go on and on with this, but Ryan hearts it as if they were saying the truth when Ryan should have been honest and say, hey, you know what? What you're saying isn't true. Supposedly he knows about our material. Supposedly he knows our material better than the average Jehovah Witness. Don't think so. And to make things worse too, we also have photos. And this is in the Proclaimer's book. Jehovah Witnesses. For many years, field service was a prominent part of every convention. Los Angeles, USA, 1939. 1939, that's how far it goes back. Stockholm, Sweden, 1963. Look at that. Granted, I would give her the carts, true, but we did street witnessing way before the COVID pandemic. My suggestion to you, Ryan, when you develop an argument, learn how to develop a solid premise, inference, and conclusion. You did nothing in your video but prove how delusional you are by definition, and you made false assumptions and bad conclusions. And you didn't understand certain basic words to understand my comparison and points. Does the Watchtower require door to door, like you said? No. Does the Watchtower require us to preach? Yes. That was my premise and thesis this whole time. In conclusion, you failed.
Ah!